Welcome to Street Knowledge with Chris Graham.
Welcome to the podcast, Chris Graham and Scott German, and we're going to talk UVA baseball. We haven't talked in a while, Scott, at least on a podcast. We talk all the time, but wow, what a weekend for UVA baseball! A 4-3 walk-off win in the regional final down in Columbia. Rain delayed as it was. Virginia gets the win over ODU, advances to what I'm calling a very improbable super regional. Scott, early morning start, a long game. What are your initial thoughts after watching that classic baseball game?
Wow, a lot of thoughts. First of all, I think back to when we were able to start going to some of the games when the COVID restrictions, and I went and watched them play, and they looked miserable, and I was really on the verge of texting you and getting you to talk me off the ledge. I was thinking maybe the O'Connor era is coming to an end because they looked listless. They were rarely taking pitches. They were going down, in pitch counts were only 3 or 4 pitches sometimes to each batter. They just weren't really using, making the opposing pitcher work. They just didn't look fundamentally sound. They just looked like they did not look like the Virginia teams that we've been accustomed to. So, man, I'm glad I didn't text that because O'Connor, never wavered off believing in the talent on that team. And I think what's happened now, and maybe we can talk about this a little later, is that they are finally over the hump of not playing any baseball last year. I mean, they had a 15-game season, and then a lot of people don't realize that most of those players never played in the summer. I think some may have played some summer ball, but not what you would normally play. So they literally lost 7-8 months of their conditioning and timing, hitting and things like that before they returned to Charlottesville and maybe had some normal fall ball type play, but to be fair,
that's the case for everybody, though. It
is, but some teams maybe respond a little bit better. If you look at college baseball, there was a few dominant teams, but there was a lot of games that scores that didn't make a lot of sense. So maybe some teams just respond to that. I know I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying maybe UVA took them a little longer to find their room because they were highly ranked to begin the season.
Well, and I remember saying this to someone recently and being corrected on it, that this team, during the run where this team improved from that 11-14 start overall, 4-12 in the ACC, April 1st, that was the record, 11-14 overall, 4-12 in the ACC. And I remember as they were making the run to maybe get back in contention for an even just a bid in the NCAA tournament, I made a point to someone to say, hey, this kind of reminds me of the 2015 team. And the person I was talking to, actually, it was through the Jerry Ratcliffe show, one of the team doctors for UVA baseball. And he made the point that, and works close with the baseball program, hey, a big difference in 2015 was that team was decimated by injuries. This team not. It's not like there were guys out. And that's why this team, and of course, that team got guys back and then got better as they got their guys back. This team they had everybody. Everybody was healthy. They just, especially now, the pitchers were pitching all along. The UVA finished the regular season in the ACC ranked second in team ERA. Nothing against the pitching staff. The hitters, though, and there's a lot of guys in that lineup that are expected to, be major league draft picks, either this week or in the next year or two. They just weren't hitting, and then all of a sudden they were hitting. So I don't, it's hard to say, but so yeah, this team, you Scott went to a series back, I think maybe in March. I went to a series. I saw the Louisville series. Louisville at that time was ranked 7th in the country. Eventually didn't even make the NCAA tournament, which is kind of funny how that works. I mean, just like Virginia Tech was ranked 15th when Virginia played them, didn't make the NCAA tournament. But that Louisville team dominated. They took 2 of 3, but they were dominant in the Saturday and Sunday games. I went and saw the Sunday game. It was not even a contest. Virginia went from that, not even being competitive, as you said, Scott, back in March and early April, to look at this team now. They're in a super regional. So I am going to say this now, Scott, and give me your thoughts. In fact, I had just started writing a column before we started recording this podcast. I am calling this, and Brian O'Connor's, this is the seventh team he's taken to a super regional. He's taken 4 teams to College World Series. He's won a national championship. I'm saying taking this team to a super regional, even if it's as far as it goes, taking this team to a super regional is his best job. What are your thoughts?
I agree. Although I will say this, I was reading over some of his Coach O'Connor's postgame comments. One of the things that I took from watching this team play early in the year was that I just was not impressed with it. I thought, where is all this great pitching that UVA had that we've become so used to seeing? I just didn't see it. And I think maybe I attended 5, maybe 6 games this year. So I'm not going to say I was there every game, especially after the COVID restrictions were kind of loosened up a little bit. But it's in Coach O'Connor's post-game comments, he actually said, and I'll read it here. This is a quote from Coach O'Connor. We've had some incredible staffs here at UVA, some dominant staffs, and we know that. We've got the quality of depth of this staff is the best we've had. Coach Dickinson has talked to me so much about that, developing guys in certain roles. He was right. It played out this week. He's talking about Dickinson done an incredible job. The pitchers know their roles. So, boy, it shows you how much I know about UVA baseball. I was questioning, oh my gosh, this is probably the worst pitching staff that I've seen at UVA. And here Coach O'Connor said it's probably the most deep pitching staff he's ever had.
Well, and I don't know if he knows his staff better than either of us do. Obviously, he's had maybe better weekend starters, but when he's talking about depth of the staff, yeah, it may be hard to argue that, and we see that this weekend. Because when and let's set up how this weekend went for those. I mean, if you watch the weekend of baseball, you may have you saw the games, but let's put some perspective to just how tough this weekend was for UVA. You lose game 1, and so this is, I mentioned the seventh team that Brian O'Connor's taken to a super regional. The other 6 went the easy way, if there is an easy way. The easy way is to go through the winner's bracket. And each of those 6 teams only had to play 3 games. They won all 3 of their games to get there.
And some of those were at home.
Well, some of those were at home, but even the first one, the team that went to the first College World Series of O'Connor's era, that was had to be Steven Strasburg out in Lake Elsinore, California, just north of San Diego, to start your trip. But so you win 3 games. You only have to pitch 3 games. You only got to pitch 27 innings to win 3 games. You lose your first game, and you know right away you've got to win 4 games now. That means you got to pitch 36 at least more innings, as it turns out 37, because you got to pitch as it turns out 10 innings in the finale. With a staff that then so you've already used your number 1 guy, Andrew Abbott. You've also used Zach Messenger, your rubber-armed reliever, but you've used him for 2 1/3 in game 1 at the loss to South Carolina. Then you go to game 2, and it's at this point, every game's an elimination game. So Mike Vassell, who's been pretty good for you all season long as your Saturday starter, gets knocked out in the 3rd inning without getting an out. He's pitched 2+ innings, and eventually you have to go to your game 3 guy. Nate Savino has been the Sunday starter of late, but there's no Sunday if you don't win on Saturday. So he has to go 4 2/3. So all of a sudden now you win the game. Great. Congratulations. Who pitches for you on Sunday? They go to Mike Wyatt. Mike Wyatt had started 1 game this year. He didn't get out of the first inning of that loss, a 10-2 loss to Liberty, an NCAA tournament team, but he gave up 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He's got good stuff. As we saw, he's got a fastball low to mid 90s, 92 to 95. He hadn't gone long. He had not pitched 5 scoreless 2-hit innings this season in a game, even in relief. But he did that against South Carolina. You win the game. Then you have to use Steven Schoch to get, I think it was 2 1/3 innings to close that one out. So, now you've used up a guy that you didn't even think anything of in terms of Matt Wyatt. He gives you some great innings. You've also used your closer a good bit. So you get to Sunday night, you certainly don't have Schoch available, And then you have to go to another guy, Griff McGarry, who was, when the season started, your Saturday starter, but was so ineffective that he pitched 2 innings in the last 45 days. Now you see the stuff he's got. His first fastball was 99 miles an hour. He hit 99 several times in that game, develops a blister on his finger after striking out the first 6 guys, doesn't get out of the 4th inning. You have to go to Brandon Neek, who is your lefty, like, shutdown guy. He's not your closer, but he's a lefty shutdown guy. All he does after coming in, his career long was 2 1/3 innings in college. He gives you 5 2/3 innings, 17 outs, strikes out 16 to get you this far. And then so that's already remarkable enough. You've already stretched out Mike Wyatt, who's given you a couple innings at best this year, to 5. You've already used your closer for 2 1/3. Most closers go an inning. You've now used your other great reliever for 5 2/3. He's out of the equation. You get to this game and you're starting who? You're starting your DH, who has pitched 2 innings in the last 2 years. Now, 2 years ago, Devin Ortiz had thrown 35 1/3 innings. He was very effective, a 1.78 ERA, but that was 2 years ago. That wasn't last week. That wasn't, last month. It was 2 years ago. So all he does is give you 4 one-hit scoreless innings to get you to the bullpen. And wow, I mean, this is just, Scott, as I start telling the story and go into the depth of the story, every layer gets more amazing. That when you talk about the depth of a pitching staff, you got guys that were under a rock that gave you 4 or 5 innings to get you to this stage. It's absolutely incredible that this team was able to do this and is playing baseball next weekend.
We talked yesterday when we thought we were playing yesterday, or thought we were playing last night, about O'Connor's choice of bringing in Ortiz. And we said, well, he must know something. He must have some confidence in him. And then you texted me today, wow, 4 innings. I was thinking maybe 2 at the most.
I was hoping for 1.
Maybe 1. But so having said all this, I want to ask you a question, and you can't choose both. That's the easy way out. So is O'Connor a mad scientist or a genius? Because this could have backfired in his face, something bad. Ortiz could have given up 5 in the first, and the game's over.
But I don't even know if it's evil genius or mad scientist, because it's what he had. Remember back, I just had to type the name in to remind myself. Remember back the championship series in 2015. Virginia loses game 1 to Vanderbilt. I mean, and that Vanderbilt team, there's no reason Virginia should have beat that Vanderbilt team. There's absolutely no reason. So you lose game 1, and who does he start? I mean, now Adam Hazley had pitched some that year. He had pitched midweek games. He was Adam Hazley, who's now in the MLB. He had pitched some midweek games as a freshman that year, but he was just starting center fielder. And so I remember when I heard that Adam Hazley was getting the start in game 2. Okay, we're waving the white flag, but it was all he had. And Adam Hazley gave him 5 scoreless innings in that game. He knows his guys, and he has faith in them. But I mean, honestly, Scott, whether he has faith in Devin Ortiz or not, it's what he had. He didn't have much else to go with. He needed Ortiz to at least give him a couple innings, and then. You saw it. We chatted about this yesterday, Scott, certainly off the air. We didn't do a podcast yesterday, but we chatted about this where would Andrew Abbott be available? And, Adam Fitt, the expert baseball writer for Baseball America, said he wouldn't be because he's going to be a draft pick in a few days. I suggested otherwise. I still think he would have pitched yesterday if we had played last night, but he pitched today. Now he gave up a run on a shift 55-mile-an-hour exit velo ground ball single through that would have been the out number 3 of that inning. But other than that, Abbott did what he needed to do to get Virginia to the next guy, which was Steven Skoch. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think Brian O'Connor, and I'll check the post game comments. I'm gonna write a column here later too. There's no way he knew Devin Ortiz would give him 4 innings. He had pitched 2 innings this season. He had thrown 33 pitches this season. I think he threw 74 in this game. But I'll say this about Devin Ortiz, Scott. You and I watch a lot of baseball. We are also MLB guys. I was telling you yesterday when we were chatting privately that I thought Ortiz, he's a senior. He's not going to be drafted as a hitter. He's a good hitter, but he's not a major league quality hitter. He's not even a minor league quality hitter. I think today Devin Ortiz got himself another look from MLB teams. He showed a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. He showed a big 12-6 curveball, and he showed good location. I tell you what, man, I think that kid's going to. I think he's going to get picked up, and he's going to be playing somewhere this summer and next year in minor league baseball.
Yeah, he made himself. He's going to get drafted, no doubt. Yeah. I don't know where, but he will. So, what's a baseball game without some controversy? So, what was your opinion on Oak? I guess or on O'Connor? Excuse me. Pulling Messenger for Abbott.
Oh, it was the right thing to do. When you looked at the lineup coming up after that, four of the next 5 hitters were lefties. And it was 2 outs in the inning, and Abbott got the ground ball. It was a base hit, but it was not a base hit. It was a ground ball to shortstop that should have been a weak ground ball to shortstop. And, you play a shift. I mean, just like in the 8th inning, playing the shift cost Virginia in the 8th inning. No, I don't think there's any controversy to that at all. I mean, you play the percentages, and Andrew Abbott in a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, lefty-lefty matchup, you go with that. And he got a weak ground ball in the direction of shortstop. Maybe the question is, and we talk about shifts a lot, especially at the major league level. I understand why you have your defense in a shift because, hey, this guy's a pull hitter, et cetera, et cetera. He's a pull hitter against your average college pitcher. Andrew Abbott's not your average college pitcher. 98-mile-an-hour fastball saws off. I mean, if that guy's swinging a wooden bat, his bat's in shards when he hits that ball off his stick.
Exactly. And his hands probably is too.
Yeah. So, no, that was a weak ground ball, and Abbott it was a 55-mile-an-hour ground ball that rolled to the outfield. That's all that was. I don't think there's anything to question about that. I would say this. The only thing I questioned was and of course it worked out, bringing out Scotch for the 10th inning. Like, come on, this guy's he's already on fumes. He pitched 2 1/3 on Saturday, on Sunday, the first game on Sunday. Now I know it's 2 days later, but man, oh man, that guy. Not only that, Scott, I have to ask you, did you see the post game interview with him from Sunday that apparently 700,000 people have seen?
I've seen it about 700,000 times. It's going to go down as one of the most classic, if not the most classic post-game interview in ESPN college baseball history for certain, maybe all sports.
Now, did you ever watch that show, Eastbound and Down, where the Kenny Powers character came from?
I did not.
Now,
I had to look that up.
I want to recommend to you one that you do. It's great baseball. It's also just silly comedy as well. But so watch at least one episode of it, but just watch the first episode of it. Stephen Scotch is Kenny Powers in real life, no question about it. His Stephen Scotch's Twitter handle is something like Donkey 47. It's a reference to Kenny Powers when he was rejiggering his career in the Mexican League, and he instead they didn't have a bullpen cart to bring him out on, so he rode a donkey to the mound to come out in relief. No, that kid is awesome, and this is part of the college game that you love. He's a guy that he's a closer. He's an elite closer at the college level. He doesn't have great stuff. I can see him getting a chance to make a minor league team. I don't know if he gets drafted. I think the draft's been cut down dramatically. I'm not sure. If there was a 40-round draft, you would put a 15th or 20th round selection on him and give him a chance to make it somewhere.
Chris, if it's a 40-round draft, you and I may get drafted.
Well, but so what I'm saying is it's not going to be the draft it was in the past.
No, I think it's 7.
It's 7. He's not going to be a 7th-round pick.
But there's going to be a lot of free agent signings.
He'll be a free agent guy. So what I'm getting at there is his fastball's 89. He's got he's a sidearm guy, slider. There are sidearm guys who make it. He's crafty. He's a crafty guy. But we don't know what's going to happen with him. If today was his last day, if this weekend's his last weekend, or if he gets to the College World Series, he may be pitching his last pitches ever as a competitive baseball player in a Virginia uniform. So he goes out there. I mean, hell, after the 7th inning, after the 8th inning, I'm thinking, why are you bringing him back out for the 9th? He gave up a couple runs. Now they were unearned in the 8th. The error extended the inning, that kind of thing. But he's out there. He's willing to throw his arm off because it might be the last pitches he ever throws in a competitive setting. He came back out for that 10th inning. And again, he's on fumes in the 9th. He comes back out for the 10th, strikes out 2, gets the side in order 1, 2, 3, a no event, nothing dramatic 10th inning. I love that kid, man. And I'm glad there's no caves down in Columbia.
Yeah. So taking a step back a minute from talking to X's and O's, I wrote some notes down about college baseball, and you just got to love it. And you and I are an MLB guys. So here's some things from college baseball that you would never see in the MLB, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just list them. A 9 o'clock start.
9 a.m. start.
A 9 a.m. start.
After being up all night last night, it was what, maybe 9 or 9:30 when we found out the game was canceled or moved to today. So yeah, that's a part of it. Yes. 9
a.m. start. The starting pitcher, who was no longer the starting pitcher, hits a walk-off home run.
He was the DH. The starting pitcher was the cleanup hitter.
Yeah. Your closer, the aforementioned Shock. I can't even.
Yeah, that's right. Shock. Yeah, I've been pronouncing it.
Your closer throws 75 pitches.
Your closer throws 3 1/3 innings, 75
If the major league manager does that, or a little league manager does that, he's arrested for child endangerment.
Well, and he threw.
A major league manager's probably fired and barred from the game for life, like Pete Rose.
He threw 2 1/3 innings yesterday.
That's like Chapman for the Yankees on 2 2/3 innings. You know?
Yeah, and then pitching the next day. Yeah,
pitching the next day. So college baseball is just such a beautiful sport. I just wished it got more publicity, because there's so many people out there missing just a wonderful game.
Well, yeah, there's so Ortiz, and not so you're maybe even underselling the Ortiz story.
Go ahead.
Because he was the first baseman most of the season, but he was taken off of first base because he had a left shoulder injury, and he was DHing at the end of the season. So for like the last month, he's been DHing. So he hadn't even been playing first base. It was a left shoulder, not his right throwing shoulder. But so he hadn't even been in the field for like a month. He pitched 2 innings all season long. I mean, you saw if anybody who stayed around for the brief post game, when he took his wet uniform off, or his wet shirt off at least, from after getting dunked with the Gatorade at home plate, you could see that he was wearing a pretty tight, like protective sleeve on his left shoulder, holding it in. He hit that bomb deep in the bullpen. His left shoulder, he's a right-handed hitter. That's his lead shoulder. I mean, he hit that bomb he had 2 home runs in the weekend this weekend with that. And so no, I mean, gosh. And again, he had been an effective pitcher 2 years ago. He pitched 2 innings this season. It just maybe shows the depth of the staff, because, when I first, of course, Scott, I'm sure you were the same way. Okay. This guy he's pitched 2 innings all season long. They're just desperate at this stage. They're just trying to get somebody out there to maybe eat some innings up. The first time I saw him throw a curveball, I said, what the hell did he only throw 2 innings for this year? My God, he's got a curveball that breaks from the top of the strike zone to the dirt. And they couldn't lay off it first time through. And so, that's a lot to love about college baseball. Coach pitching 3 1/3. Scott, you and I are longtime Major League Baseball fans. Closers used to be used that long. Think about Raleigh Fingers. Think about Bruce Sutter. Think about Goose Gossage. They weren't 1-inning guys. But certainly since the Tony La Russa revolution of the late 80s with the Oakland A's and Dennis Eckersley, closers pitched the 9th. Scotch would still be, how did you pronounce it, Scott? I keep saying it wrong.
Now I forgot how. Scotch.
Thank you. Yeah. Scotch. Okay, I'm going to get it right here. Folks, email me. I'm sure I'm all wrong there. I'm seeing the name in my head and I can't get it right. He goes 3 1/3. He'd still be pitching now. He'd still be pitching now. If it was the 15th inning and we're still talking right now, he'd still be pitching, because that kid they would have to get a donkey to get him off the field, basically. And that's what you love about college baseball. They're out there for the orange and blue. I love Major League Baseball, but it's certainly a business. Everything else, these kids are out there just trying to get to the next round.
Yeah, and many of them will never whiff Major League Baseball. So right. They're just having fun. So going back to the game. And I don't want this to go unmentioned. So Ortiz is going to the talk is going to be about Ortiz hitting the game, pitching, starting to pitch, and then coming back and ending up being hitting a walk-off home run. It's going to be about Scotch coming back in to pitch again. But let's not forget maybe what could have been the biggest play of the game, and that's the throw Teal made to second.
Oh,
talk about that. What do you?
The throw to Teal, which throw Teal made to second. Which one are you talking about? Throwing out the runner to home plate, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So after I
mean, that kept the game within reason.
2-2 in the eighth, bases loaded after the error by Max Kodiak extended the inning. The first pitch, the next batter, I can't remember the batter's name right off, but he gets a single to right field. 1 run scores. And you got to be aggressive if you're the third base coach for ODU, because at this point you can't keep presuming you're going to keep getting hits. So you send the runner. Yeah, as we saw earlier in the game, there was a throw home, and I can't think who that. It was from center field from Tappan. I think it was Tappan. And his throw, the throw beat him, but it was offline. I mean, that's what you do as a third base coach. Hey, make him make a perfect throw. If he makes a perfect throw, we're out of the inning. But if he doesn't, we're up 2, and now they're reeling. He makes a perfect throw. I mean, that's all you can say. And yes, at the time, UVA fans, and Scott and I among them, were thinking, oh, God, woe is me. The sky is falling. It's 3-2. 3-2 is different than 4-2. And obviously
it let late in the game. It's huge.
It's huge. And it allowed Virginia to score that run via what? There was an error. There was 2 wild pitches on a 1-2 count. Ortiz, actually, this is something too. And I need to mention this in one of my post-game columns. Ortiz certainly gets credit for the walk-off home run, obviously. He gets credit for the 4 innings pitched at the start of the game, obviously. He was down 1-2 in that count and didn't look good going down 1-2. He takes ball 2, which was out of the zone. But he works himself back in the count. He takes a walk, and you look at the box score, he walked. So what's the big deal about a walk? Well, he didn't strike out, and then those 2 pitches from the relief pitcher trying to overthrow 2-2 and 3-2, both fastballs over the catcher's head. Wild pitch allows runners to go to second and third, and then allows a run to score. Ortiz doesn't get an RBI. He didn't deserve an RBI, but just keeping that at bat going allows Virginia to tie the game. And so those 2 plays, very unheralded plays, throwing out a guy at home plate after they've already taken a lead, taking 2 pitches to get to count in your favor to allow the wild pitch to tie the game. I mean, those won't go down on the box score as anything other than just what they were. Obviously, very huge game-turning plays.
Yep, absolutely. So Virginia's in super regional. So let's talk a little bit. I think the super regional with TCU being knocked out, it was going to be in Fort Worth, right?
That's right. Oh, yeah. They were the seeded team, yes.
And then Dallas Baptist, DBU, wins that regional. Kind of quirky that the NCAA decides to bring both Dallas Baptist and UVA, both number 3 seeds, instead of Dallas Baptist. I think I'm reading here, stadium seating capacity of only 2,000. So that wasn't going to hosting a regional wasn't going to happen. But, the NCAA, if they were looking out for maybe revenue, they could have moved it back to Charlottesville, where you would have had a sellout or close to it probably.
There'd have been a sellout. There'd have been standing room only. There'd be people hanging off the hills there. Yeah.
But I kind of like the idea of bringing it back. They didn't sell out for revenue, and they kind of kept their protocols in order and made I think they made a wise choice.
No. This is insulting to UVA baseball. Here's why. Similar situation back in 2015. Virginia won the regional at USC. And the USC and UCLA were supposed to match up in the super regionals. UCLA got upset by Maryland. And so Virginia got to host that super regional. If you remember, we were there for that. I was excited last night when I saw that Dallas Baptist had won that, because Oregon State was the other team that was in that final. Oregon State certainly has facilities. They would have probably hosted. We would have been flying out west. But I say this is insulting to Virginia baseball. because this announcement was made. I mean, God, the game started at 9:00 this morning, Scott. They announced this before we woke up, but that this was going to be played in South. Whoever won was going to play in South Carolina. ODU facilities are such that they didn't even apply. They were the top seed in this region, and they didn't even apply to host. That's how bad their facilities are from the NCAA's perspective. The NCAA presumed that ODU was going to win this game. Virginia's starting their DH as the starting pitcher. I mean, they just went ahead and said ODU is going to win, so let's just have Dallas Baptist and ODU play in Columbia. That's a tremendous insult to UVA. UVA, they could have waited until after the game and then just said, "Hey, let's go make some money," because it's still a business. It's not Major League Baseball, but it's still a business. They UVA 2 or 3 games this weekend would have sold out 5,000 seats. They would have sold all kinds of popcorn and beer and everything else. And instead, there's going to be 1,000 people at most at these games down in South Carolina. And the weather is not a weather factor because I looked at the weather forecast for Columbia, South Carolina this weekend, 60 to 70% chance of rain all 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's an insult, Scott. I think it's an embarrassment for the NCAA that they made this call before the game because it smacks of we think ODU is going to win, and now we're going to just have ODU play Dallas Baptist in Columbia. This is awful. This is awful for college baseball.
So, and I may be wrong, but I believe I read somewhere last week that the NCAA kind of tied their hands with COVID and that quite possibly they already had 20 or so pre-selected sites. Wonder that possibly could have played into it.
I don't know. I mean, Virginia certainly is open, as we know. We live in Virginia. Virginia is open 100%.
So is Texas. So they could have gone back to just kept it at Fort Worth, which would have been a huge distance.
But they weren't going to. I mean, because theoretically, I don't know where the Norfolk Tides were this weekend, but ODU could have hosted at Norfolk at Harbor Park.
Right.
They didn't apply to do that. To me, again, if you're going to do it, everybody else is playing the other. What is it? The other 7 series are going to be played on campus sites. This one's going to be played on a campus site that doesn't involve either team. It's awful. I mean, this is, one of those 2 teams should be hosting. If you're gonna say have Dallas Baptist host, and find a stadium in Dallas, Dallas Fort Worth, that can host it. There's stadiums there. Even though TCU isn't their home school, it's certainly closer. There's at least a fan base there that at least the Dallas fans could go there for. No, this is embarrassing. I mean, this is just it's awful. It's awful. It's just it's awful for the business of it too, because again, how much are those tickets? And at least 2 games of tickets for UVA baseball. The NCAA, UVA, and Dallas Baptist could all share some money. There's not going to be anybody down there. A few people from Charlottesville will make the 7-hour drive or maybe fly down. Those who can afford to do that on the whim that there is. But it just smacks of. To me, I'll keep saying this. I said this when I first heard it before the game, Scott. They think ODU is going to win the game, and that neither ODU nor Dallas Baptist is worthy of hosting this game. And so let's just make sure that we announce that ahead of time so it doesn't seem unfair to either side. Well, it's unfair to UVA. UVA is we being our fan base, our alum base, guys like Ryan Zimmerman and Sean Doolittle and other alums and other charitable John Grisham and people like that have spent a lot of money building up that facility to be able to host super regionals, and it's going to sit empty this weekend. That makes no sense to me at all.
I tell you what, Chris, if I'm an ODU baseball booster and I know that I had this great season, possibly the best season in ODU baseball history, and they've had some really good teams. Justin Verlander pitched at ODU. And I was not able to host a regional. Yeah. And I have this coach that obviously is doing a pretty good job. I'm going to put some money in my program and get and invest in a better or move it like VCU. They play at the Diamond, which is by no means, a palace, but it would still qualify to host a regional.
I think about that though. One thing they said about Dallas Baptist when they were talking on the broadcast today, Scott, you and I have both been in that press box at the Diamond. I'm not sure if the Diamond press box could accommodate the NCAA. It's smaller than I mean, it's smaller than any press box I've seen. That's first because that stadium holds 12 or 13,000 roughly. I mean, I don't know the official capacity. That press box holds about 2 or 3.
Yeah, the press box is like a shoe box.
There are better press boxes in the Valley League than there are at the Diamond. That's a double A.
Well, I think the Generals have a better press box.
Well, they have more room in the press box than that.
Certainly more room.
Yeah, that's
it's not very long and it's extremely narrow.
But when UVA plays road games, and we didn't this year, we were supposed to play ODU at home and it got rained out back in April. We normally play a home and home with ODU, and when we play down there, they play the game. That ODU smart. They play the game in Harbor Park, and why is that? Because they can sell at Harbor Park with UVA fans, even though they're the home team. Just like when we go, Scott, to Richmond and watch VCU play UVA, it's VCU's home stadium. VCU made the tournament this year. They played deep into their regional, but when UVA plays VCU, it's a UVA home game, and the same thing down at Harbor Park. But they make money doing it. That's again, it's not filling up a 60,000 seat college football stadium, but if you can sell 10 or 15,000 tickets in a weekend, why not do it? So,
I'm sure Dallas Baptist wouldn't have been all that eager to know they're coming to Charlottesville, but don't you think that baseball is the one sport where home field can have the least advantage? And it's more about the starting pitcher.
It's about the starting pitcher, and honestly, the players will tell you that. I mean, they don't feed off the energy. Football and basketball are both momentum sports.
Yes.
Baseball,
but baseball, I don't think is.
Baseball is if the pitcher's dealing, it doesn't matter what momentum you think you got. And I know announcers talk about, like today when that guy hit the single off of Abbott, to where the shortstop should have been, that little weak grounder that went through and got the first run across. Oh wow, what a great piece of hitting! No, all you got to do is go to batting practice. Go early before a game and watch batting practice. They're just trying to put the ball in play. They're not like that hitter again. I think it was Gagliaro, and I'm sure I mispronounced, or Gagliardi maybe.
Had 14 home runs this year.
Yeah, 14. Yeah, they had a lot of guys. Of course, if you look at the dimensions of their home park, Scott, you would have 4 or 5. 325 down the lines, 375 power alleys, 390 center field. That's a high school field. That's why they didn't host this weekend. But no, what a great grit, what great resilience that guy showed. Poking it through the hole. No, he didn't poke it through the hole. He was trying to pull the ball and got sawed off.
Right.
So no, the hitters are up there swinging, pitchers are dealing. Your point was home field advantage. Home field advantage is only until they throw the first pitch, and then I think the NCAA would rather have a loud home crowd either way, Dallas or Charlottesville, than a bunch of empty seats. That's what you're going to see on TV
right.
this week.
You're going to see a lot of empty seats. That's why I think moving it in the NCAA is not real. Apparently not real marketing savvy, because they're going to have a super regional in Columbia, South Carolina. It's going to be all UVA fans, but it's probably going to be lucky to be 2,500 or 3,000 people there. Where if it were in Charlottesville, the stadium's going to be rocking. The college atmosphere is going to be on full display. And again, I don't think home field means that much in baseball. I'll give you an example. Tonight or tomorrow night, the Mets play in Baltimore.
Uh-huh.
I believe it's tomorrow night. Jake DeGrom pitches. Does that matter? Do you think that gives the Orioles any advantage whatsoever of beating the Mets and beating Jake DeGrom? That game could be played in Cape Collins, or John Moxley Field, or on the moon, and Jake DeGrom is going to overpower the Oriole batters. It doesn't matter. It's,
Hey, I'll shift our because I agree with you there. I'll shift our talk for those UVA fans listening in. We've bellyached about it enough, and I've started the bellyaching because Scott, you at first you were probably saying,
I started it. I instigated it.
No, but here's what I'll say now. We were in Columbia 2 years ago, as that Virginia basketball team that we all love. I've got a lot of memorabilia hanging behind me right now. Those podcast folks can't see it, but from that tournament run, I love Columbia, South Carolina.
Columbia is a great town.
That the area around that stadium, because our parking was where the football and baseball stadiums are. We had to park there and take a shuttle. Man, I tell you what, there's all kinds of barbecue places. They built that up well. folks who are going to make the drive down or fly down, whatever you're going to do,
they're going to have a blast.
You're going to have a blast. That's right. There's a game Saturday, presumptively, if the weather holds out. Sunday, there's at least a game, maybe Monday a game. Take advantage. The weather will be, except when it's not raining. The weather should, the views are nice. The food around it's nice. It's a great facility. It's a nice facility. As you saw on TV this weekend, there's worse things than having to go down for that. I mean, if you can make the trip, it'll be a fun trip. It's just a 7-hour drive one way. I mean, it's going to take a while to get down there. 7 hours for us. It's probably 6 hours from Charlottesville if you're closer.
A lot of UVA fans in Charlotte, though. So.
True. There's a lot of UVA fans and alums in Charlotte, but an hour away, and probably Atlanta coming up, maybe another hour the other direction, probably, Scott. A big alumni base is there. There will be people from Richmond who will fly down or drive down, come down 85 and eventually hit down there. But if you haven't been to Columbia or if you haven't been in a while, it's nice. It's a good place to go. Just wish it was a shorter drive for most of us and just heading over to Charlottesville.
Yeah, if you remember that Sunday game in the regionals in Columbia, media parking was in that press. It was in the parking lot of the South Carolina baseball stadium.
That's right.
It's a beautiful stadium. In Columbia, I'm sure most people will stay right downtown.
Yep. Downtown's beautiful. That downtown's walkable, very nice. Lots of restaurants there. Good place. Good.
If you do, and there's a lot of, remember the golf carts? They have a lot of golf cart taxis, if you will, to take you anywhere you want to go.
You and I and Jerry Ratcliffe and Scott Ratcliffe, we all had some fun eating at different places. I mean, it was
great barbecue.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're going to love the Carolina barbecue down that way. No question.
Okay, Chris, you're talking me into this.
I know. And I'm hanging around the home base covering from home, but Scott, we may need to connect you with our colleague there, the Ratcliffe group.
COVID is over with and long history, ancient history. And I'm like, would go to a marble shooting contest right now if it was something competitive. I'm looking for any excuse to get out of the house.
Well, so we may have Scott German representing Augusta Free Press down in Columbia, and we'll see about. But yeah, I hope if you decide to make the drive down, Scott. But for those fans, again, it's going to be great. And hey, this team, we shouldn't be talking about this right now. A few weeks ago, we were still debating whether or not this team would get over 500. They had to take 2 or 3 down in Blacksburg from a team that Virginia Tech team looked like the NCAA tournament team of the 2 going in. Virginia takes 2 of 3. Tech faltered down the stretch. Virginia takes 5 of 6 the last 2 weekends after the exam break. I mean, remember, Scott, the loss to VCU before the exam break. Scotch gives up the I think it was a 4 or 5 spot in the top of the 9th in Davenport to a VCU team. That put us on the brink again. Virginia takes 5 of 6. They go down. They get to they win 2 in the ACC tournament down in Charlotte, get to the semifinals, lose to Duke, but we knew at that point, hey, you're good. And then they had to work their way through. This team, I mean, I guess O'Connor's made this point all weekend, Scott. He's been making this point the last few weeks. This team has had its backs against the wall since late March. I'm a Washington Nationals fan at the MLB level. I like to think that teams who've been playing, they've been playing with their playoff implications in their minds for 2.5 months. They've known every day they go out there, they've got to win a game to keep playing baseball. That Nats team of 2019 that won the World Series had to, basically from May 19th on, had to do the same thing. I think those teams have an advantage over teams that have only recently started to ramp up their playoff mindset. Dallas Baptist is a team from a conference that, they've known for a long, long time they were going to be in the NCAA tournament. They were just getting ready for the NCAA tournament. Virginia had to exhaust itself to get to this stage. Here they are. I like their chances this weekend.
This is kind of some kind of eerie similarities between that 2015 team. Like you said, that team had to go to Chapel Hill and literally, was on life support, if not already declared dead. They
had to sweep that series. They were losing in the 9th inning of Game 1.
Right.
They had to sweep that series, and they had to rally to beat their closer. And then, so it didn't mean to interrupt, but that's how desperate it was then. Yeah.
So deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would say. Hopefully. Going back to today's game just a little bit, what do you think, O'Connor? I mean, I loved this. After starting Ortiz, after getting 4 innings from Ortiz, what do you think? Did you think O'Connor maybe in his mind was like, we got this? There's no way we're going to not get 4. We're going to get 4 scoreless innings from our designated hitter, first baseman, and not win this ball game. I mean, how I just don't understand how that could have. It's still mind-boggling to me that we got that performance from him.
At the least, he's thinking, hey, I mean, because he bridged me further than I thought he would bridge me, because, you know, there were still other guys. When you saw they showed a clip of the guys running out of the bullpen. I think it was in the 4th inning. He still finished the 4th inning and got out of it.
It literally ran out to the
they sent the entire cavalry out there between pitches, I think it was between at bats. And you saw, I mean, I brought my roster up because there were so many numbers running by. I mean, I saw Abbott running out, but I wanted to see the other guys running out. And I had laid out yesterday in a column I wrote previewing what I thought was last night's game, who I thought that they would use, who would be on deck. I didn't think Messenger would be on deck. I think he was only able to pitch today because of the extra day of rest. He had pitched on Sunday. He'd pitched on Saturday and Sunday. Actually, he pitched on Friday and Sunday, but I don't think he would have pitched yesterday, Messenger, the first guy out of the bullpen. But as it turned out, the first guy out of the bullpen. But they sent Kyle Witten out there. Witten would have been available. Didn't need to use him. They sent Vassell out there because Vassell only pitched 2 innings. He threw 53 pitches and 2+ innings on Saturday. Sent him out there. So say all Ortiz gives you is 2 innings. Well, then Witten has to come in. Then Vassell probably has to come in. I mean, and of course, Witten wasn't effective in his first game against South Carolina. He didn't get an out, in fact, in his first game against South Carolina. He was somewhat effective on Sunday. We know Vassell. I mean, gosh, he's a guy that's been your Saturday starter all season long, or since the second weekend of the season. You knew he can be effective, but you don't want to have to go to him. I mean, and so when Ortiz gives you 4, now we've shortened the bullpen. Now we can go to Messenger for, if not for the error by Codier in the 6th, Messenger gives you 2 complete. So he gets you to the 7th. And I think the game plan probably was after the modified game plan. I think it probably was after Ortiz gives you 4. Let's get Zach Messenger to give us 2. Let's get Abbott to give us at least 1, get us through the 7th. And then we can use Scotch for the 8th and 9th. So Ortiz made it possible for you to bypass a couple guys who were maybe iffy in terms of whether or not they would get you through an inning or 2. He gave you 4 and gave you that bridge to, because I think at the end you were going to go Messenger. You were going to go Messenger, Abbott, Scotch at the end. And I think that's why you had what you had there.
Yeah, getting 4 innings from him changed the whole dynamics of how O'Connor used the bullpen.
It did, and it shortened the game from Virginia's standpoint, because he was hoping to get 2. He was hoping to get 2.
I was hoping to get 1.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. Get me 3 outs without major damage, right? And then he looked so good. But no, at best he was hoping to get 2. Hey, a run or 2, we're still in the game. He's just eating outs up, because we didn't. I'm sure there was such a question: how can you get me? How can I get 27 outs out of what I got left?
Right.
And he got 27. He got 30 outs, as it turns out, with what he had left, because Ortiz was such a hero there. And also, let's just go back to Scotch. He got you 10 outs on fumes, and it gave up 2 runs, 1 earned. And really, I mean, even the one there were a couple of pitches in that sequence. Scott, he walked a couple of guys. That the leadoff guy there that he walked, there were 2 pitches that were strikes that weren't called strikes. So anyway, I mean, arguing balls and strikes now after a win, essentially the Super Regionals. But Scotch was effective. Everybody put out there was effective. Everybody put out all weekend after Mike Vassell, I would say, was effective. Vassell really, of all the guys, was the only guy that disappointed, because I would even say McGarry, even though he developed the blister. I mean, hell, he struck out 8 guys. Before he's got blood all over his pants, trying to get you some more outs, for a guy who'd only thrown twice in 45 days. So hell, everybody he threw out there except for Vassell this weekend, was great, and that's why he's talking about this staff being the deepest he's ever had.
Yeah, and as I said, I feel I'm glad I didn't make those texts to you talking about what a crummy pitching staff we had back in April when
If you'd have texted me about the crummy batting lineup, we would have both agreed, but they've even come around. That's why this team turned around. The pitching has been consistently good. The hitting has come around. I mean, it's weird to say, Scott, for a team that I think I had his stats still up here. Let me pull my stats up as we're talking here. Virginia has improved. So when the regular season ended, this is a funny thing. I haven't looked at their ACC stats for a while. When the regular season ended, Virginia was ranked 14th in the ACC out of 14 teams. Syracuse doesn't field a team in baseball. Virginia was 14th out of 14, and they were hitting in the 240s. They now rank 9th in the ACC, hitting 261. That tells you since the ACC tournament, this team has heated up. And even then, it took them a while to get to where they were, to even be, where they were at that stage at the end of the regular season. This team, when I look at that lineup 1-9, like I remember looking a couple innings in the late innings when the game was, in balance. I don't see a hole right now in that lineup, even your 8 and 9 guys. I mean, today's lineup, what was it? Looking at the batting order here, Jake Geloff hits 7th. He had home runs for you this weekend. Logan Michaels had a home run for you. Newell had a long home run for you this weekend. 7, 8, 9 guys can poke it. They're hitting 247, 255, 229, but their numbers are up. I mean, so I look at that lineup and say, the season numbers might not look good. Right now, 1-9, they're tough outs all through the lineup.
Talking about that lineup and hitting coming around, I remember it wasn't this year, it was last year. I went to a game, a midweek game, and was able to set somewhere near home plate, behind home plate. And I sat beside a scout from the Braves that was there scouting the game, and kind of picked his brain for most of the game. And we got to talking about the Davenport Field, and it's literally the Grand Canyon. It's such a deep the dimensions are so deep. And I said to the scout, this has got to really help favor the pitchers. And he said it probably favors UVA hitters better. And he went on to explain, because they're not going up to the plate thinking home run. They're thinking making contact. They're thinking of what the pitch count is, working the pitch count. And that's their approach. But when they do go to ballparks where the dimensions are much shorter, they still they're still capable of hitting home runs. So he actually said Davenport Field was more of an advantage to UVA hitters than it was to UVA pitchers, or just as much of an advantage.
It's certainly from a development standpoint, yes, because Major League Scouts are looking for guys who know how to work counts, because in this day and age, home runs are important, but also working counts is important. And there's a sort of a Coors Field effect. Those who know Major League Baseball, Coors Field, of course, playing out there in Mile High City, the ball travels because of altitude. The dimensions of that park are outlandishly big. And they have to be. Because otherwise every ball hit in the air would be a home run.
Right.
And so there's a lot of doubles and triples hit there. And so, there are certainly a fair share of homers as well, but a lot of doubles and triples because of the dimensions. And you have to play. Your outfielders have to be more athletic. You have to have guys who can leg out triples. And so, yeah. And of course the UVA pitchers have an advantage because, they're used to pitching that way. But I thought about that when I saw the stats for both South Carolina. I got to do an in-depth preview of the South Carolina game. Once the tournament started, you can't do in-depth previews of everybody because their games are like every few hours. But, South Carolina, the dimensions of that stadium there, you saw it. UVA hit home runs this weekend. They don't hit a lot of home runs, but they hit home runs this weekend because that park is a relative bandbox. 395 to dead center field.
Stadiums are.
Yeah, it's 325 down the line, 395 center field. And then all day today you're hearing about ODU leading the nation in home runs. Well, yeah, they play at no offense to ODU facilities, but they play at the equivalent of a little league ballpark or a Babe Ruth ballpark.
But when you come back and face a team with quality pitching like Virginia, then that hurts. That to me, that hurts ODU.
Well, not even the quality, but just a 325-foot fly ball is a home run. A 325-foot fly ball in Davenport is not even a warning track out. So they're going to have 108 home runs playing 2/3 of their games in a stadium like that. That is neutralized though. Yeah, when you play it at a more neutral kind of stadium. So credit to ODU. I mean, it's hard to say anything bad about them, Scott. You and I, when we were texting, you one of the points you were making is maybe they ran into a Power 5 team. No, they just UVA outpitched them a couple of days, and that's a credit today again to Brian O'Connor. As we're getting ready to wrap up here, I know we probably have to wrap up here soon. Credit to Brian O'Connor. He knows the depth of his staff, and he got the outs today. Got enough runs from that lineup. Devin Ortiz, hero. Steven Scotch, hero. And this team's still playing baseball this weekend. Scott, you and I will have to get together. I'll for our listeners out there, I'll let you know. I got a couple more stories coming today. We've written our game recap. I've got some more follow-ups to recap this weekend and this game today. But then we'll start looking ahead to Dallas Baptist. I'll do my analysis of Dallas Baptist. We'll get a look at that team. Kind of break down their pitching staff, their bullpen, their lineup, look at their strength of schedule, et cetera, kind of talk about that team and its strengths. And we'll get you ready for another Columbia Super Regional, I guess. So, Scott, final thoughts as we're wrapping up the show here.
My final thoughts are that, I'm not going to go out on that ledge as much as I used to because it's a lot of takes a lot of years off my life. And college baseball, I just can't get enough of it. And this time of year, it's just so much fun. And to think back, we lost it last year, Chris.
Yeah.
The only collegiate sport of the three that actually was wiped out. I mean, we had a football season, we had a basketball season, void of fans for the most part, but these kids had their whole season taken away from them. So I hope that this is the most exciting super regionals and College World Series that we can possibly have. They deserve it.
I will second that. Yes, it's great to be thinking about. I know it's super regionals this weekend. You're able to think of just a little bit about Omaha. We didn't get to think about Omaha last year.
Nope.
And last year's team was an Omaha contender as well. So yeah, we're able to think about Omaha, and that's a great thing to be able to do. So the world is back to some normalcy, and that's great. Well, for Scott German, I'm Chris Graham. Thank you for joining us here on our podcast. And for more on UVA baseball and getting ready for the weekend, go to AugustaFreePress.com. You'll have all you have and all you'll need and more there for that. So thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you for listening to Street Knowledge with Chris Graham. Get the latest on the Who's and up-to-the-minute local news, politics, and sports online at AugustaFreePress.com.